Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right, everybody. JWP says 30 minutes late is expected. Anything after this is wild. I agree, but we are only 30-ish minutes late still, I believe. What do you mean no audio? There is audio. There is audio. I can see the audio in the thing. There's audio. What are you talking about? What do you mean no audio? Okay, hold on. Testing. Now? Is there audio now? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, how about now? Yes? Yeah? There's audio? There's audio. All right. There is definitely audio. I'm just gonna keep going. There's definitely audio. I'm gonna close the stream if you guys don't end this. I'm gonna close the stream. All right. I feel like that is deserved though. I think I did deserve that. I was so late. I don't know who planned this, who orchestrated this, but it was a good decision. Unless you guys did it all on the fly. You guys were just all on board at the same time, in which case I'm very impressed. Because it was a long stream of just no audio. Who planned this? Who was the mastermind? Wait, who's the mastermind? I feel like it's got to be one of the mods. All right, let me catch the supers real quick first. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. You guys did it on the fly? There's no way. No, come on. No. I'm not banning it. I'm not banning any. I don't. I'm not banning anybody. All right, JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months. Peak chapter. This was a good chapter. This was a good chapter to get. Yeah, I guess to get the fights started basically. Still curious with the. I'm kind of up in the air with the. Is Luffy gonna fight Kizaru or Saturn here? Because obviously it looks like Kizaru. Luffy seems like he's ready to fight Kizaru, but I can't help but feel like Saturn just seems like the final boss of this arc. I mean, I guess maybe Kuma is supposed to take out Saturn or something like that. I don't know. I think it would go a long way to hyping up the Gorosei if Luffy. I just feel like it feels because Luffy versus Kizaru, it's not a real fight in the sense that we know that Kizaru's heart isn't in it. Obviously he's trying, right? But like he did look like he was about to kill them right before Luffy intervened. Whether you think he would have gone through with it, or I don't know. Or maybe you thought he sensed Luffy coming. I don't know. But we know that, this is just the most conflicted opponent Luffy's ever fought. And on the flip side, you just have a Gorosei member right there. And I feel like it would just go such a long way towards setting up Luffy versus Imu down the line if Luffy ends up having to fight the Gorosei instead. Because it's just, it sets us on that track of like Luffy actually fighting against a Celestial Dragon, right? A direct Celestial Dragon subordinate to Im. I don't know. It's just something that I think is interesting. Old Faithful, and plus we already got Luffy versus Kizaru. I guess this is round 2. Round 1 wasn't great, but it was fine. Old Faithful, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 9 months. Oda is giving Straw Hats too many ways out again. Bonnie can control the pacifista, plus the Giants came to save them. We shouldn't need all that. I do think it's odd that Bonnie can control the pacifista. It also now makes sense why Oda set up that scenario at the end of last chapter. I was like, why do we... like, we kind of just got out of this situation where Kuma saved Bonnie, and now it seems like it's happening again. It was so that Bonnie could take over the pacifista. I don't know how I feel about that, because I like the idea of the pacifista existing as, world government weapons. It just makes the world government that much more intimidating for the final war. Because, again, like, a single pacifista has the value. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. the original version of the pacifista, and I will catch the supers I missed from the beginning of the chat in a second. Let me just get this thought off. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. So it's just crazy to think about the original pacifista from pre-time skip was about equivalent to the Straw Hat crew, right? Like a little bit weaker. The Straw Hats obviously got it in the end, but it's close to equivalent to the Straw Hat crew, right? The current pacifista are pretty much all probably about going to be equal to pre-time skip Straw Hats. You know what I mean? Like a single pacifista, the new models, are probably equal to one Straw Hat crew, right? So it's an army of pre-time skip Straw Hats, which is kind of insane to think about. I feel like that's so amazing to have on the world government side because, again, like, like the pre-time skip Straw Hats, that's enough to take out a Shichibukai like Moria. That's enough to take out, like, all of CP9, you know? So if you think of each individual pacifista today as being that value, it's just so much to have on the world government side. If the good guys get it now, I feel like it's just almost too much to have on the good guys side. You know what I mean? I don't know. I would rather have seen them have to overcome the pacifista challenge with just sheer teamwork, numbers, etc., with the alliance's side at the end of the story, than have such powerful like individual pacifista. Like they're going to be soloing just entire battalions of Marines like it's nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like you need at least you need a vice admiral to take out. If we're going by, like, if you really want to scale the pacifista, right? So obviously Marine ranks have variation to their levels, right? There's variations, right? Like Kobe, I believe, is not even Kobe's not even a vice admiral, but his strength is clearly, he should be in that category, right? But in general, from what we've seen, like rare admirals, like an X Drake or something like that, that's more along the lines of where Luffy was pre-time skip, right? He wasn't like vice admiral, whatever, but rear admirals, right? They like vice admirals know hockeying up. Rear admirals, it seems like that's not a prerequisite. But basically, if you think about it, a single pacifista should require a vice admiral of the Marines to defeat. That's a lot. Like, if they can just control all the pacifista, they just got control over basically, unless Oda kind of fucks with like the power scaling and forgets how strong an individual pacifista is supposed to be. Like an individual, like they just got a fucking army of like, I don't know, like 100 vice admirals. Who knows how many pacifista are out there? Behenort, thanks a lot. I'm surprised Saturn they're not equal to vice admirals, obviously, but I'm saying like 100, they got like an army of like a bunch of soldiers that would probably require a vice admiral to defeat. Behenort, thanks a lot. I'm surprised Saturn isn't using his powers more and just ordering Kizaru. Also, him stabbing Stella could be lead up to Luffy finally confronting him. Yeah, I would love to see a emotional reaction from Luffy at some point here. I just don't know. Like, I feel like Oda might be going more for Luffy staying happy and kind of carefree and bringing the joyous Nika vibe to everything here. So maybe him getting all mad over Vegapunk. Like, I don't know. We kind of got to see. We kind of got to see how Luffy acts once he sees Vegapunk, or if he doesn't. Or if Oda doesn't even want that interaction to necessarily happen. If he wants to maintain the idea of Luffy being this dancing, laughing warrior that provides hope to Bonnie and Kuma, you know? Old Faithful. No, we covered this. This is just what we covered. All right, so I'm catching up. Let me catch the supers I missed from the beginning of the chat of the stream. Razvan Antonescu, thanks. Dear Morj, Mihawk isn't fighting Shanks because he has one arm, but he is fighting Zoro who has one eye. Outrageous. Big hug you. Thanks. Fuck. Yeah, you know how funny it would be if, like, at the end of the story, Mihawk runs to Zoro and he's just like, I'm not fighting a cripple with one eye. I don't think that's the main reason Mihawk... I don't know. Like, I think it's more... I think that was just Mihawk shit-talking, basically. Like, obviously, Mihawk would still fight shit. Like, I'm sure Mihawk would still find Shanks to be a good fight, you know what I mean? I think it's just Mihawk shit-talking, basically. Like, Mihawk didn't show up to actually fight Shanks, you know? Even if Shanks had two arms, I don't think they were going to fight right there. Mihawk showed up to just be like, hey, look at this poster. This is based on the story that you told me about that kid. So, it was just some trash talk that Mihawk was throwing out in the moment, right? He didn't actually show up to duel. Razvan Antonescu, thanks a lot. The way you walk with the hoodie in your ad looks like the Arlong Park walk or any slobby. Very cool. Cool hug you. Um, thanks. If you want the hoodie, if you want if you want the things that are being mentioned here, the clothing, I will drop it in chat for those of you who are interested. Now, don't know how to feel about the rest of that chat, but I appreciate the kind words. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. And Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. The eyes of a child's prayers being answered and likely others awaiting in the shadows. Yeah, I feel like this was such a special moment for... Like, this was the moment that we were all waiting for Bonnie to get to see Luffy as Nika in a very, very dire moment. I do wonder if this is like the start of more moments like this to come, where people that know about Nika and just have been kind of hidden or keeping it quiet or whatever get to slowly see one by one this character, this legendary god that they've been praying for appear before their eyes. So I think the moment was done really well. Yeah, this was definitely a really good chapter. Behenord also, I forgot the other part of your comment, the fact that Saturn isn't using his powers more and just ordering Kizaru. I wonder if we're waiting to see more of Saturn's powers in that, like, this is part of why I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe Saturn's supposed to fight Luffy or something, because Oda's being a little stingy with Saturn's abilities at the moment. So I do wonder if we're going to get a full sort of, like the moment that he sort of actually takes action is going to be, that's when the spotlight is kind of going to shift over to him, and that's when we start to get the focus, you know? Caleb Brown, thanks for the 2. Are you going to be mad if Kuma doesn't die? So, I'm not going to say anything... Like, if you ask me right now, yes. I can't personally think of any way that Kuma doesn't die that would not shit all over his entire backstory, life story, character story, right? It would definitely make the last 3 pages of chapter, 1102, like some of the most cringe pages in all of One Piece, whereas right now they're some of the best 3 pages in all of One Piece, right? So, yeah, if you ask me right now, that's how I feel. At the same time, you never know how Oda does certain things that might make something that initially sounds really, really bad to you work. So I'm not going to say definitely 100%, because, for example, if you told me 400 chapters ago that, hey, it's going to turn out that Luffy is, like, his devil fruit, he actually has a legendary devil fruit that's the sun god devil fruit or something. If you just told me that, like, he's actually got a legendary sun god devil fruit that has been prophesied to save the world for, like, the last 800 years or something. If you told me that, yeah, 400 chapters ago, I would have said that ruins the entire story of One Piece. Part of the charm of Luffy is that he just has a silly rubber fruit, stuff like that, and he's able to do so much. I would have said a million things. Now I'm like, I love the abilities that Luffy has right now. I'm cool with all of that. I like it a lot. I think it's good for the story. So, you never know, but at this moment in time, I cannot think of a way that I would not think Kuma's entire life story isn't, like, the entire character is wasted and basically shit if if all of that build up to sacrifice wasn't actually a permanent sort of sacrifice. So, yeah, but you never know. Let's just hope it doesn't get there. Let's just hope it doesn't get there. Omar, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 3 months. The other day you were talking about Avatar The Last Airbender Season 3. It made me think of similarities to the Wano arc, but in Avatar Season 3, the raid actually fails. Anyway, thanks for the stream. So what's funny is I had a friend who is not a One Piece fan, but who, he funnily, he will browse videos or stuff randomly or whatever, tune into streams, okay, and he'd be like, what is the raid failing? Like, this was during 2021, 2022, that period of time, right? He's like, what is the rape? Like, why is everyone talking about it with you? And I was like, the easiest way I could explain it to you is you remember, and I gave this specific example, which was from Avatar Season 3, what was it, the Day of the Black Sun or something like that, or I forget the exact episode. I was like, remember like when everybody got together to do a big assault? You remember when that happened, and then they failed, and then they had to rise back up and all that? You remember that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's basically this. It's the same thing. And he's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So that was basically the easiest way I can explain it to normal people. So it's funny that you brought up that example, because it is actually, like, I have legitimately used that example before to explain to other people who don't know anything about One Piece, but at least know, like, a Western cartoon like Avatar. That is, to be fair, the only time I've had to explain that, because, you know, like, he saw enough of my content just to see like titles and like dropping into streams and stuff to understand that raid failing is a thing, but he knew nothing about One Piece, so he couldn't actually understand what the fuck was the big deal about it. Fuck. I either need a haircut or I need like a new conditioner for like curlier hair. Cause like, you guys are not interested. Where was I at? Oh yeah, let me also shout. So again, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for so long. Let me also just quickly shout out that if you would like to be a Pirate King tier member, or no, let me phrase it the other way. Every month there's a Pirate King tier podcast, which is an hour plus long podcast. I think the last one went to nearly an hour and a half. It is a very long podcast where I take all of the questions that Pirate King tier members submit and I go through them one by one, very in depth. Usually topics that are not, like, some are very related to One Piece, some cover other series, some cover outside One Piece. It's just a space for me to be more in-depth. I don't talk with, like stream. I'm trying to go through and not, like, miss out on people. Like, there I can be a little bit slower, a bit more elaborate with discussions and say certain things that are a bit more private, or I wouldn't share in stream. So, something to consider if you would like. The submission form is currently up. So if you submit stuff right now, I will be recording it over the weekend, and the podcast will be out next Monday. So if you would like to submit stuff and join Pirate King tier, you can just hit the button below. It is up to you guys. Just wanted to throw that out. JP, thanks for being a member for 10 months. Where would you rank Dory and Brogy so far? Strength. That's a tough one. That's really, really difficult. Because, like, that's really, really difficult. I don't know, because the reality is, so like other giants are a joke, right? Hajrudin, joke. Whoever the fuck, I don't even remember their names. The ones that Big Mom soloed at 5 years old, joke, right? These Elbaff warriors have been ass so far. Dory and Brogy, it's also interesting because their bounty only hit 100 million, right? But it sounds like they had a very long tenure as pirates. But their bounties only hit 100 million. Some people are like, oh, well, inflation and shit. It's like, I don't know if inflation has ever been established to really be a thing in the One Piece world. And if you want to get nitty gritty, it's like, well, inflation's always a thing. It's like, no, it's a fucking fictional world. Like, you know how many other things in One Piece do not mirror the real life or real world or real economy whatsoever. So we can't really go by bounty, though, I think, with them, just because Oda didn't have a concept of how long the story's going to go. I don't know if Oda even planned how strong they're supposed to be back when he wrote them, you know? Because, like, they're not... they shouldn't be taking damage from Mr. Three's bullshit, you know? Even Luffy actually was able to fuck one of them up. The taller one, Dory, I think. I forget their names. I mix them up. Luffy was able to fuck him up, although he was obviously handicapped. But even then, like, he shouldn't be fuck-upable by Luffy at that point in time, right? So it's difficult to say with Dory and Brogy, because I think the flip side is that they both have that move, the Elbaff Cannon, right? Which is a move that Big Mom uses. Does that make them as strong as Big Mom? No. But Big Mom's move basically seems to be the same as what they're doing. So I feel like there's supposed to be some, like, maybe at least in terms of raw physical strength, it's something similar. I feel like they might be. I feel like they're not like Yonko level or anything, in my opinion. I feel, right? I feel like maybe they're in the Yonko commanders sphere. I don't think they can fuck up admirals either, right? I think that they're in the Yonko commanders sphere, but I don't know where you guys would put them. Maybe I'm being. I literally don't know. MILF Lover, welcome to the Yonko. Yonko tier members get access to the weekly podcast, which will come out tomorrow. Pirate King tiers get access to both weekly and the monthly podcast. Yonko tier members get access to the weekly podcast. Yeah, Giants have the worst anti-feats ever. Yeah, for where it seems. Well, no, Shanks does with the Sea King. Don't worry, I'm catching up on chats. I just usually do member chats first because they disappear, whereas super chats don't. They stay around. All right. Catching up. Hold on. Manny, thanks for the 10. Hey, Captain Morj, user of the late fruit. Now that Elbaff is certainly next since the Giants are here, when do you think Elbaff will begin? I'm assuming late this year. Now that Elbaff is certainly next since the Giants are here, when do you think Elbaff will begin? I feel like late this year is correct. It's tricky because Oda's schedule is sporadic. I don't know how many chapters into the year are we. I feel like we're about 4 chapters, 4 chapters. I think we're 3 chapters into the year. I might be wrong. Let's say we're 3, right? I think Oda will get out probably 35 chapters this year, give or take. Let's say 35. If we're optimistic, 38. But let's say 35. I feel like it takes 10 more chapters, maybe more. Let's say 10 to wrap this up. 15 if we're highballing it. So that puts us somewhere halfway through the year. Maybe we're okay, but then I think we'll get some in-between arc stuff. So I think we might hit Elbaff, like outside world building things. So I think we might hit Elbaff towards the end of the year. Yeah, I think that's a good estimate. Jeremy's Rambo, thanks for the 2. What do I think Cross Guild is up to during this? I would fucking love. Okay, so super if I gave my super optimistic, excited point of view for Cross Guild, or like speculation for Cross Guild, if we're saying best case scenario, right now they're going to get Weevil, and Mihawk is fucking up Green Bull off screen. No, not off screen. It'll be on screen as soon as we cut over to there, right? Because, Cross Guild, currently it's a Shichibukai Alliance. Let's get one more in there, right? Let's get Weevil in there. Give an opportunity for Mihawk to fuck up an Admiral. I think that'd be good stuff to see, you know? I would like to see it. Yeah, but I do like to think that they're doing something against Marines. Caleb Brown, thanks for the 5. Imagine this, baby Bonnie on the front lines of a battlefield in Final War with 1,000 battle-ready Kumas standing beside her waiting for her orders. Hype. It would be cool, but it's just such overkill. It's too much. Again, like the pacifistas, 1,000 is a lot, right? But they already had so many, even at the time of Marine Ford. Again, it's just the pacifistas, if you scale them, right? They should be a single pacifista right now, with its upgrades and everything like that, it probably takes the pre-time skip Straw Hats, which means that its value is higher than all of, like, a single pacifista's value is higher than all of Thriller Bark, like Moria, Ors, all of that shit. It's higher than CP9, all of CP9, right? It's really fucking high. It's higher than a single, like, Rear Admiral, if we're using X-Drake, for example. Again, like, Kobe's a poor example. Kobe, we know, should scale to High Vice Admiral or something like that, right? But yeah, like, a single pacifista is a lot. It's a lot. Like, I think you need, I don't even know how many Vice Admirals they have, but I feel like you need at least a Vice Admiral to take out a pacifista. You know what I mean? Octillery Knight says Mihawk versus Green Bull would be so bad for Green Bull. He already has too many L's. I feel like Green Bull is meant to be a hype tool at the end of the day. I just don't think he's been written with the same respect as other admirals. And I've always, I think I've been talking about in recent videos, just based on the trends of Aokiji, Fujitora, now even Kizaru, with the way Kizaru's been looking character-wise lately. I would not be surprised if the admirals are not going to be necessarily on the world government side come Endgame. I feel like Green Bull might be the only one that just is defeated, and that's why he's not around Endgame. I think that those are possibilities. I think that's also partly why I've been talking about. I think that the Seraphim are becoming such a big deal throughout this arc. It's very interesting to me that the Seraphim were not actually defeated straight up this arc. They just temporarily removed them. And it's been hyped up that the Seraphim as adults are meant to be very, very powerful. And this is just a glimpse of what they can do. Right? So Oda didn't even show the kid Seraphim being defeated. I feel like that's being saved for down the line. And I think they're supposed to remain a big deal through the end of the story. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like if Green Bull ultimately is just supposed to be like an admiral that is defeated before the final war. He's just written in like a much more generic manner than the other admirals. He's, I mean, he might surprise. You never know. Kizaru had much more depth to him than we thought. But I've just never seen an admiral get embarrassed and humiliated the way that he was right off the bat. Where are we at? Attilio, thanks for the 5. Morj, I ended up missing my Calc 3 class because I went an hour over for my Organic Chem 2 lab, but here your majestic presence is to save my day. Holy shit, dude, you're taking some difficult classes. I've heard so many things about Organic Chem from STEM majors. It sounds like a nightmare. I do not envy you. Good luck, man. You'll have a very good degree at the end of this, I'm sure. It's worth it, I bet. 2 hats too many, thanks for the 5. Any chance the robot squares up with Saturn? If not, what will it do? I cannot tell you what the robot's gonna do. I have no fucking idea. If Saturn gets hit by the robot, it'll just kind of get comedic at a certain point, because like Kuma rolled up and just like sent him flying. He was like, fuck, this fucking robot punched me. And then like this ancient robot wakes up after like 200 years, walks over and punches Saturn. It just becomes a bit of a joke at a point, right? I don't know what the robot does. I really don't know. I have no particular predictions for the robot. Like, maybe the robot is how the Marines get cleared out, like a large part of these Marines. Because right now they're up against a huge fleet. The robot fighting Saturn just isn't that interesting to me, I guess, because I would love to see how Saturn does against real characters, like characters that we know. Shattered Glass, thanks a lot. Do you think Blackbeard knows about Nika / Joyboy? I think Blackbeard knows good parts of it. I don't know if he knows the full story, but I do think he knows significant parts of it. Part of it being because I believe that Blackbeard, and I think obviously many others think that Blackbeard could be a Buccaneer, right? And so far from what we've seen, the Buccaneer race is the most prominent race when it comes to, like, it's the race that very clearly has the explicit legend of Nika being passed down through its generations, right? With Clap, what he shared with Kuma, what he's sharing with Bonnie. It's the Buccaneers that seem to have this story explicitly with the concept of Nika being passed down generation to generation. 02657, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 6 months. Always good to see you. The robot is going to dance. That would be funny, but I don't know if it's going to dance. I think that'd be a weird sight to see, but you know, anything's possible in One Piece. Shattered Glass, no, we covered this. Behenort, thanks a lot. BTW, great video this week. I like how political the comment section got, though people under my comment mistook me for being pro-America, which I'm not. So I liked your, I understood what you were saying, Behenort, by the way. I understood what you were saying, and I gave your comment a heart, and then I saw the comments under your comment, and I was like, okay, I think they're misinterpreting your comment, so I'm gonna unheart this comment. So it's nothing personal. It's just, I think the main message that most people took away based on the comments is generally, yes, what I was going for. But, you know, I'm never going to be super explicit about anything on this channel. Sorry, it's just the way it is, but I hope that the videos do get across the message that they intend to get across. And I did like last video quite a bit, and I'm happy the reaction that it got for sure. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thank you for the 5. I bet during their fight, Shanks, in true pirate fashion, shot Mihawk with his non-sword hand. Mihawk lost interest because he can't overcome the trick now. That's funny. Mihawk just doesn't know what to do about that. JWP, thank you for the 20. I think Oda thought of world's strongest swordsman before realizing that like Roger, Shanks, etc. also have to like use swords. They can't all be punch fighters. I don't think that's the case, because it's such an easy decision for Oda to decide, who's using a sword, who's not. You don't have to have characters use swords whatsoever. It's a very easy just not to do it, Garp, like, why can't you just have characters be punch characters? Garp's a punch character. I don't know. I do think that Oda has a more distinct idea in his mind of what, like, I don't know. Like, obviously questions come up, like, why doesn't Roger have a black blade, etc. I feel like these are things that we can just wait and have explained to us down the line, because, at the end of the day, Zoro's the second most important character in One Piece after Luffy, and this is his goal, right? I think it's going to be somewhat fleshed out in Oda's mind, at least somewhat, like why certain things are true of, swordsmen like Mihawk having a black blade, someone like Roger not. I think there's more to learn about swordsmanship, right? That's always been the case in One Piece in general. I think that very often when characters are able to do things and we don't understand why or how, or we don't understand the nuances between certain abilities, it's kind of just like, okay, wait and find out. It's like, how do these characters split the sky? Oh, that's an application of Conqueror's Haki, right? I think we just need to give it a bit more time. Give it a bit more time, and then we'll get some nuance, I think. You said also watched VOD of Straw MVP, and like, dang, post-time skip really is the Monster Trio show. It is, for sure. I think the Monster Trio are the only ones that consistently, arc after arc, get stuff, right? Because combat just matters so much. And this is something I talked at length about in previous streams, but it's just like when there's so many other characters on each island, right, that have such diverse skills and abilities, a lot of that takes, like, just the lesser members of the Straw Hat crew, it can hurt their value, right? Like, again, like, we're in the fucking Egghead Island arc, where it's all about engineering, mechanical creations, etc. And Franky's fucking useless because there's like fucking 6 other characters there that can do his job better than him, right? So combat's really the only thing that kind of is a staple where it will consistently always be valuable, which is why the Monster Trio will always be very valuable, whatever arc they go to. Manifest Joe, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 15 months. So do we think the Giants came under Shanks' order or of their own will? I could see either at this point. I really don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't have any idea, partly because... Okay, so I feel like... I don't even know how they got news about this shit. I guess, did they see the poster or something? And Shanks tells them that, like, look, this is the awakened Nika fruit. And then the Giants are like, okay, well, then we're going to go... Then they hear news about Luffy being at Egghead, so then the Giants head over to give him a welcome at Egghead, because the news about Egghead, I think, has probably spread. I guess, right? Because it's been a full overnight stint with Egghead. I don't fucking know. John678, thanks for the 2. Kuma should have died will be the new raid will fail. That's... No, it's not even the same thing. This is just... Oh, come on now. It's like that. This is just basic. This is 101. This is just like the raid will fail. Like, if you don't want to get behind that, you don't have to get behind that. Obviously, that's like if you think that the arc has tension enough or whatever. But like, this is just the character death was already written. Like, it was already pretty much like, this is just the way his story goes, right? Like, the conclusion to that, it's just like, okay, goodbye forever, Kuma. Right? And all of Egghead, it's him breaking down, etc. We're seeing him travel over to Egghead Island. It's just, he's on his last legs. He's giving it all for his daughter. It's very beautiful, very poetic. If Oda's just like, psych, I drummed up all that emotion for nothing, it's just BS, then it's just like, the fuck are you... whatever. Yeah. I'd say, like, the raid will fail is, like, that was a very bold prediction, but it made sense, at least narrative structure-wise, midpoint dramatic tension-wise, character writing-wise. It just made sense for, like, story structure reasons, right? But it was the off-pick, right? Like, a lot of people were just like, no, that's too much of a twist for this arc, right? Kuma dying is not a twist. everyone was fucking on board with Kuma dying. Like, everybody's fucking ready for him to die. We all fucking thought Kuma's done for by the end of his backstory. Everyone was like, sayonara, dude. This is the end, right? You'll probably get some final moments with your daughter, whatever. Everybody's on board with Kuma dying. The twist would be him not dying, which would be a fucking terrible twist to throw into a perfectly written character journey. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 10. I think Mihawk resents Shanks. How are we on Mihawk? Neither of these characters are in this fucking chapter whatsoever. How have like 40% of the questions been about Mihawk and Shanks? What is going on? Zoro's not even in this chapter. Is it because of Dorian Broggy? Is that like... Is that where we're at now? Like, all it takes is for Shanks' friends to show up to an arc, and suddenly it's about Mihawk and Shanks? What is going on? Why is it like this? All right. Nerve AMV Maker says, I think Mihawk resents Shanks for sacrificing his arm because it limited both their potential. Shanks bet on the next generation, but maybe Mihawk thought that the two of them could have changed the world. I don't know about change the world. I don't know if Mihawk has any interest in that, but maybe continue improving as a swordsman or something like that. I don't know. I think Oda said in an SBS or something, like, maybe Mihawk just wanted to keep fighting Shanks before Shanks was technically handicapped, just for full potential purposes. I don't know. But at the same time, I think Oda put out in an SBS or an interview or something like that, that Shanks losing an arm didn't lose him any of his strength, something like that. Maybe I'm making that up, but I distinctly remember. Can somebody confirm or deny? Matt DiCaro, thank you for the 5. Franky will help Vegapunk create his own cyborg body to stay alive, equipped with a built-in bathroom, nutrition, and sleep/energy system. Thoughts? ? That would be fucking awesome. I would love if Franky did that. If Franky actually was able to construct something for Vegapunk that Vegapunk himself couldn't construct, right? Because I guess body enhancements are Franky's... No, but it just wouldn't make sense. Why can't Vegapunk do that himself? You know, Vegapunk should be much more skilled at doing that. I was going to say that body enhancements are maybe Franky's thing, but then I was like, no, Vegapunk made the entire pacifista system, and he turned Kuma into a cyborg that was a much more advanced cyborg than Franky was. I don't know. It would be cool if Franky can contribute in some way that Vegapunk himself couldn't, but I'm stretched to think of what that would be. I feel like that the one way that Franky would probably be better at Vegapunk, my guess is that Franky is probably better than Vegapunk at the actual physical creation of things, right? I don't think Vegapunk could build a bridge in a polished, fully laminated whatever bridge in 3 seconds flat that spans, you know, that gap in Thriller Bark like Franky did. I don't know if Vegapunk could do something like that. I feel like Franky, as the actual physical act of crafting and building, is probably a lot better than Vegapunk, I think, right? I also feel like with ships, Franky probably has a much greater area of expertise. But I feel like in every other department, including body modification, I feel like Vegapunk should take it, right? Am I crazy? Franky's probably a faster builder on his own. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm on board. Blue, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 16 months. Does it diminish their relationship if Shanks only bet on Luffy because he knew Luffy was Nika? So it's a tricky question because at the end of the day, so if you go back a little bit, right? I think it's a bit of a up and down situation, right? Because at the end of the day, Shanks, if you go back to chapter 1, right? Shanks gave his hat to Luffy, but it wasn't based on that much. You know what I mean? Like, Luffy showed that he was brave for sure, trying to, fighting back when people were bad-mouthing Shanks, right? When Higuma was bad-mouthing Shanks, right? Luffy showed he was brave, and he told Shanks that, hey, I'm gonna make a crew even stronger than yours one day, right? I don't feel like that stuff is, like, at that point in time, it felt right. It was like, okay, Luffy really showed his merit here, etc. But in the grand scheme of things, would that be enough? Like, now that we know so much more, I'm like, would that be enough for Shanks to have been like, you're gonna make a crew stronger than mine and, like, search for the One Piece? Holy shit, there's nobody else in the world like you. Here's the hat that represents the passing on of the legacy since, like, fucking 800 years ago to bring the dawn of the world, right? I think in retrospect, that would be a bit much. However, flip side, We then learn that Luffy said something that Roger said way back when as well, right? It must have just been an off-screen thing where Luffy said the same dream that Roger did. I think that carries a lot more weight with Shanks having had this click moment that, okay, Luffy actually has the potential to follow in the footsteps of Roger. Take the hat, right? So I feel like those words are what mattered more to Shanks at the end of the day, right? But then we get this third twist, which is like also the Gomu Gomu no Mi is this legendary fruit, the Nika fruit. So it's a lot of little factors because like at first it's like, okay, it seems like Shanks went off too little. Then it's like, okay, it makes sense why Shanks went off Luffy's words, same words as Roger. And then finally it's like, okay, but also it's the fruit. So I guess at the end of the day, it's like, how much is Luffy's character versus how much is it the fruit? I think ultimately at the end of the day, Shanks just realized that the fruit probably chose Luffy for a reason. Because the same character traits, the same dream that Luffy expressed that Roger expressed, and then the coincidence of the fruit choosing Luffy, I think it was just a combination of things that made Shanks realize that this is the person, right? And I think that's okay. Kumba Boomba says, Morj, did you see Crocodile's nephew in the cover page? It did look a lot like Crocodile's nephew. Remarkably like Crocodile's nephew. The best part of Alabasta, for sure. Colin Parker, thank you for the 10. Hey Morj, wild chapter. 2 things. Do you think it's likely Kizaru will show major emotion? Rage, crying, also what the fuck is Buckingham Stussy doing going to Egghead? She doesn't feel important right now. You never fucking know, man. You never know. I'm surprised that Dory and Broggy are here. I really don't think they need to be here. I guess as a way to get them to Elbaff. I don't know. But Oda's got it all planned. Like, if he's moving characters around to get to Elbaff or to get to Egghead Island, it's going to be important for some reason or another. As for Kizaru, that's a great question. Because I think we've already seen a much more serious version of Kizaru than we've ever seen before, between last chapter and even what he's experiencing now. Do I think I'll see him crying? I think we could, depending on how far things go. I would love to see, because Kizaru is the most the most unfazed of the admirals in general. Like if you go back through Marineford, earlier arcs, later arcs, etc., he's the most detached of the admirals, right? Everything he doesn't take too seriously, it looks like. Which is precisely why I would love to see that mask sort of crumble down and see the real Kizaru, the real Borsalino, I suppose, underneath all that. And I don't know if I need to see rage or crying, but it would be really, really powerful to see a character like him legitimately getting really, really angry or legitimately being emotionally moved in some way. I don't know what we're going to see from him, though, but already I feel like we've seen a lot more than I would have expected from him. Alitho5, thank you for the 5. Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a minute. Was recovering in the hospital after Mork ran me down with what I think was a souped-up lawnmower. Anyways, super cool wheels, Morj. Thanks, man. Always good to see you. Spade, thanks for the 5. Don't get why so many people are complaining about tension right now, especially right after Onigashima, where the tension criticism would be more fair. I mean, I don't have any... First of all, let's get the stream likes up to 200. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. As for tension, I feel like this is to me, this is fine. Because I think that I feel like Luffy's return is not meant to be... I feel like it's genuinely meant to undercut tension, right? It's supposed to feel like... Right before this, we're supposed to feel a sense of heaviness. Before this is when we're supposed to feel like a sense of tension, right? The pacifistas bearing down on them, Saturn and Kizaru bearing down on them, things seeming very difficult for the Straw Hats, for everybody. For Bonnie and Vegapunk in particular, obviously. Luffy's return is supposed to be an injection of just hope, elation. It's supposed to kind of turn that mood on its head, right? And, you know, that tone flows through the rest of the chapter as well with the giants coming in and everything. It's supposed to feel like it's supposed to be a tone shift. So it's almost weird to me that some people are arguing that, no, it's still tension or whatever. It's like, no, the point was that, read the chapter, it's a tone shift, right? Luffy's return, him laughing, being joyous, etc. It's supposed to be a tone shift, right? It leads into the giants and everything like that. You're supposed to feel, it's supposed to be a bit of a flow from like heavy to breaking the tension to a certain degree, right? Now, I'm on board with all of that because Egghead Island in general was not written to be a very serious arc for the Straw Hats, right? It's serious for Bonnie and Kuma, but, you know, they've gone through, like Bonnie and Vegapunk, but they've been going through that, right? For the most part, it's been a generally, like, Oda's never tried to make this too much of a serious arc for the crew itself. There have been obviously moments of difficulty, but it's just the general atmosphere has not been that heavy, right? So, you know, it's fine to have, like a climax where Luffy's laughing, etc. throughout it, if it fits the vibe of the way the story has been going so far, right? If we were at the end of like fucking Annie's Lobby after the Straughts have been through an emotional ringer and like just have been through so much drama, so much difficult character turmoil, put so much of themselves out there, so much on the line, been through so many emotions, everything's so serious, right? And then at the end, like, Luffy's laughing and joking around, it just wouldn't fit. Like, you can't imagine that happening during Luffy versus Lucci. It's fine here because you play to the story that's been written for the character, the story and level of, like, emotional investment that's been written for the characters throughout the arc, right? So, I don't, like, the only reason that I push for tension so hard for Wano is because Wano's a fucking gigantic arc, right? It's the most significant arc in One Piece up till that point, basically, at least in terms of length, what they're going up against, etc. So I just assumed that would be an arc that has higher tension. This was never an arc that I thought would have high tension, and as the arc progressed, it never seemed like a high tension arc for the Straw Hats, really, right? You can go to chapter like 1089, and I think that perfectly kind of sets the tone for what we should expect throughout the climax on the Straw Hats side, right? Obviously things are going to get like a little bit serious, but it just doesn't feel like this isn't the final war. This isn't like some deeply personal conflict for the crew. You know, at the end of the day, this is like standard fare for the Straw Hats, right? They're just trying to get the fuck off the island. Marines are after them. You know, this is all in a day's work. It's more so a very harrowing experience for Bonnie, for Kuma, for Vegapunk. But it's cool if like Luffy's laughing and everything because he's shifting the mood for them from being very down, very distraught to getting to feel hope and elation, right? So, like, it just always depends. I don't know why people, like, honestly, if Luffy came in very, very serious and angry right here, one, it would feel like a little bit forced because I don't think that we've built up that level of personal, like, that character line for Luffy to be that serious throughout this arc just yet, right? Like, if you read, like, it needs to be built up for the character, right? Luffy's never really been that serious in this arc. He's been fairly, like, he's been his usual just like happy goofy self throughout this arc, right? I think just having him come in really angry, all furious or something like that, like Nami just said help me or something like that, I think that'd be very, very forced. This makes more sense to me. Yeah, I mean, I think the tension point, I feel like I might do a video for it for the following week, because I already have the video for next week done, like, written, basically. But the video for the following week, maybe I'll address, like, Gear 5th and tension, because I do think that there's situations where, in the future, potentially, where it could be, like, not fitting, or something like that, for sure. Like, if you apply Gear 5th to some of the previous conflicts that have happened in the story, you'd be like, obviously Gear 5th wouldn't work here, and it would hurt a much better story. It would hurt the story quite a bit if you swapped what we got for a Gear 5th fight, right? But I think for the moments we've gotten so far, I think Gear 5th works well. Based on the flow of the arc that Oda had, and the character journey he had for Luffy and the Straw Hats for the given arcs between Wano and Egghead. I'll do a video elaborating on it. You know what? I'll commit. I'll do a video elaborating on it so people could kind of understand, like, in a more structured format what I'm talking about here. Kabu, thanks for the 5. It seems like dancing is becoming important in the story. Could D mean dance? I think that would be lame. Because, like, dancing is, like, at the all the other interpretations of D, like the Dawn, Devil, Demon, or even Smile, those are things that have really been worked into the story throughout the story from East Blue through pretty much every major saga since, right? Dance is something like, yeah, it happened in Skypiea, but I never really associated dancing with anything like freedom or like. Did anyone associate Luffy with dancing before Wano happened? Like, yeah, they dance a little bit at parties and stuff like that, but lots of times it's not even a dance. It's just them doing goofy shit, like shoving chopsticks up their nose. It's just really not much of a thing in the story of One Piece. Like, that is something that very much came into play in Wano specifically. It's like, remember that one time Luffy danced at the bonfire? Well, that's his thing now. He dances all the time. That's his thing. It's like, okay, I could roll with that. I never associated Luffy with that before, but I could roll with it. If it's like, and the Will of D the entire time it meant dance, I'd be like, okay, this is kind of dumb. Like, Will of D stands for dumb in that case. All right. Oh shit! I triggered talks of Bollywood dancing. That's funny. Manny, thanks for the 5. Can't wait for Usopp to have a cool moment with the Giants. Been waiting since Little Garden. Shit, I didn't even fucking think about. Man, that says something that, like, Usopp has been so fucking conspicuously absent for the entirety of Egghead Island. Like, all of Egghead Island. What the fuck has the dude even been doing? I did not think of him once when I saw Dorian Broggy. And he is the character that is most associated with them. He did not even cross my mind in the slightest. That is funny. Also, maybe Who's Who learned about Nika from a Buccaneer, like Clap. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Buccaneer in prison or something like that. That feels like it would really, really fit. Because I feel like the Buccaneers are, like, slowly being whittled down, obviously. The last of them might have been slaves, prisoners, etc., until they're basically all gone. Alex Grayson, thank you for the 20. Thanks a lot. Yo, man, haven't been here in a while. Who are we thinking is the one feeding Luffy? My money is on Smoker. I don't think it's Smoker just because I don't think that he's on the island. He hates abuse of power, likes Vegapunk, can easily sneak around with Smoke, and was last seen heading Egghead. Wait, was he last seen heading to Egghead? Can someone confirm this? Was Smoker seen recently? Was he heading to Egghead? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300. Let's get the stream likes up for Smoker, the next Straw Hat. All-powerful God NL, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 10 months. Meister George, if Kuma dies, who do you think gets the Pawpaw fruit? Maybe the Blackbeard Pirates? Blackbeard Pirates would be a nightmare, because they could do, like, the convenience of teleportation just fucks up so much with that fruit. I put out a video on this before. I think it's Vivi. You can check it out. I go pretty in-depth on it. It's a video, I think it's called, like, Lily and the Secret of the Ancient Kingdom or something like that, or Lily and the Secret of the Pawpaw Fruit. Yeah, check that out. I think I go pretty in-depth into it. First I talk about Lily, then I talk about Vivi. But I think both cases, I think Lily had the Pawpaw Fruit, and I think Vivi will get the Pawpaw Fruit. JWP, thank you for the 5. With Aokiji and Kizaru recent stuff, Akainu having some of the best character writing in the future is something I really believe in. I'm going to answer this question while ordering something on DoorDash because I realized I have no food right now in the house whatsoever. And I think the window for me ordering things is kind of closing. So I feel like Akainu, in my opinion, because, okay, if we go through levels here, right? Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru. I think that's the order of significance of each of these characters. It already seems like Aokiji's getting a very long, drawn-out character arc that's going to have many steps, right? Kizaru, he is the least significant of the original trio from what it seemed like for the longest time, but it seems like he's getting a fairly developed arc here, right? So it's kind of like Kizaru's getting a fairly developed arc, it seems like, or at least the potential for, in Egghead. Then Aokiji's getting a character arc that's developing over multiple arcs through the final saga, it seems, so that's going to be even more elaborate than Kizaru's probably. So I'm betting that Akainu's, I would not be surprised if he ends up going down as, like, either him or Blackbeard as, like, the best villains in One Piece, just because I think the potential for Akainu as, I just think the potential for him as being the best, the most interesting Marine at the very least is very, very high. And I don't think, like, Luffy has never fought how do I say this? I don't think we've ever really gotten, like, the Marines' side of things in terms of how do I say it? Like in terms of the shoot, 1 second. Yeah, I don't think we've ever really gotten the Marine side of things in terms of, we get to see so many pirates and we understand the value of being pirates, right? But with the Marines, I feel like we've never had like a fair look at the background of what turns someone into a Marine. Like, what are the negative aspects of piracy that turn someone into a Marine? We know good Marines like Garp and Kobe and Smoker, but we don't really get to see like what Garp went through as a child that made him grow up to be a Marine, or like what Smoker went through as a child to make him grow up to be a Marine. Like what made them get this righteous sense of justice. I guess Kobe kind of with Alvida, but it's so shallow because it's it's chapter 2, like where we just see that she made him do chores and shit, right? Like it's not as gritty as you might expect something like what a Kainu's backstory could be, because One Piece was a lot lighter at the period of time. Big Al, thank you for the 5. Been wondering if Oda will ever go back to show how the Straw Hats figured it out, if it was York to rescue Stella, or you think it would mess the pacing. At one point in time, I thought that it was like really like when we were coming out of the night, I thought it was really important for us to find that out. Now I'm like, fuck, it might just mess up the pacing. I feel it's weird because like I think the moment that we realize that the Seraphim are in bubble guns and that's the solution to them, I was like, okay, it might just be like Oda's just hand waving that whole thing away, which I think was disappointing because it did feel important as to York is the smartest. York is smarter than anyone on the Straw Hat side, right? I guess the Straw Hats have the other Vegapunks on their side too, but it's just like York seemed to have shit together, like a sort of master plan, and it seemed very calculated the way that York was able to take out Vegapunk. So it's kind of like, okay, so what was the whole? Like, what was the downfall of York? Is it just not important for us to find that out? I agree that it would be good if we could find out, but I do think it might mess up the pacing. I do also have to go to the bathroom really quickly. I will be right back. Let's get the stream likes up to 300 in the meantime. Rodolfo, thanks for the 10. Sad my theory of Kuma saving Luffy failed. Yeah, I like the idea of Kuma showing up, pushing the pain out of Luffy. I thought that would have been really good. It could still happen. Because what if Saturn fucks up Luffy for a moment or something, like with some sneak attack or some bullshit, you don't know. What if Saturn fucks up Luffy for a moment? And then Kuma's able to come in clutch. But excited to see Kuma and Bonnie witness Nika being true and not just a legend. Being saved by Nika should be the last thing Kuma experiences before he dies. I would love to see that. And I would love to see, because we got to see the moment that Bonnie recognizes Nika. I would love to see the moment that Kuma really recognizes and registers that Nika is there. I think that would be amazing. Arguably even more so than Bonnie, just because Kuma's been through so much bullshit through his life. Just always holding faith, like literally always traveling around like man of God, always holding faith, always believing in what his father taught him at a young age, always wanting to be a hero like Nika. His last hope was Luffy being Nika. I would love to see Kuma really registering that and what his thoughts are, to be honest. More than anything. All-powerful God NL. Oh no, we covered this. Zolden, thank you for the 5. I thought it was hilarious that the Marines were scared that Luffy would eat them if they get too close. That's real Emperor energy there. Lol. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like when... It's a little bit like when Big Mom washed up on shore and like Chopper was freaking out. Like, fuck, it's an Emperor. It's good that they fear Luffy now. Good. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Eyes96, thank you for the 5. Even though it's a movie, but Film Z can serve as an example of an interesting marine background dealing with evil pirates like Zephyr, for example. I liked Film Z quite a bit, but I don't remember how much it went into what turned him into a marine as much. I don't think it did. Or not... Yeah, what turned him into a marine as much. I don't think it did from what I can remember. I would love to see more, like, childhood stuff. Like, give me a tragic childhood backstory. I do think that... Okay, out of the One Piece movies I've only seen 2. I've seen Stampede, Film Z, and parts of Strong World. I think Film Z, from what I can remember, was the best, but I don't really remember Strong World. Like, I didn't really get the full Strong. It was on in the background. Fun fact, this was actually when I went to DreamCon with some other One Piece YouTubers, general One Piece community members, I suppose, back in 2022. So I was at their house in DreamCon, and they just had Strong World playing in the background. So I kind of got a glimpse of it. I kind of get the gist of what it's about. But at the same time, didn't really get the full story of that, so I can't really count that. Between Film Z and Stampede, Film Z was genuinely a good movie by the end of it. But Stampede was so much fucking fun. I would watch Stampede again over Film Z again. Like, Film Z I like better, but you could just... Stampede is just so watchable. So watchable. Film Red? Oh, I've seen a lot of Film Red just through clips. I know the whole thing of Film Red. It's kind of like a bullshit movie. It's just like a long music video, basically. I watched to skip through to get to the fights, and, like, it's mostly dumb. It's just this... the character of Uta... written in out of nowhere. Luffy and Shanks really care about her. She's also now canon. It's like, what the fuck? It's a Crocodile's nephew situation for sure. Oh, Film Gold. I've seen clips of Film Gold. I've seen a lot of Film Red through clips. I've seen a bit of Film Gold through clips. So the only ones I've watched in full are Stampede and Film Z, and this is of the later movies. I did see Baron no Matsuri. I saw the full version of the full movie of Baron no Matsuri, but that's pretty much it. Loud Waffle says all the movies are dumb, just about giving nice fights. I liked Film Z. I think Film Z was good-ish. Like, I thought it was good, and then I think the final moments of it. How much do spoilers matter here? I think the final scene for Zephyr was a good scene. The final send-off scene for Zephyr was a good scene. King G, thanks for the 5. I think when Kuma recognizes Luffy as Nika is when he'll finally die because he'd be affirmed that Bonnie is safe. I like that. I like that a lot. That would be very fitting, for sure. Definitely would be very fitting. So, okay, so One Piece film... Okay, so if we backtrack through the One Piece films, here's my memory of it all, right? I feel like Film Gold is where they fucked up, because... So the new age era of One Piece films begins with Strong World, right? So it begins with Strong World, and Strong World was very hype, right? Coming off the back of Marineford, Chapter 0 came out, and it's just got so much going for it, which is the idea of Shiki, a canon character, even though the movie itself is not canon, but Shiki, a canon character, a legend from Roger and Garp's days. This was just a whole new ballgame for One Piece movies, because, like, before that, One Piece movies would have just some bullshit villain, like, I'm this pirate you never heard of from this island that you never heard of, and, like, no one gives a shit about me in the real world, but I'm fighting Luffy and I'm a problem, right? This was like Shiki. This was like a real big deal, like a legend of the One Piece world. That was going to be a movie villain, right? And the character itself is canon. So that was really exciting for its time. I almost watched film Gold, not whatever it is, Strong World. I almost watched Strong World, but I didn't. Again, saw part of it on a TV in the background at in 2022, but we don't count that. Strong World really hype. Then Film Z, again, like Oda rolled with the idea that, or the filmmakers rolled with the idea that, like, okay, they want exciting stuff that feels relevant to the real world. So it's like, okay, a Marine Admiral, former Marine Admiral, canon Marine Admiral, got his arm cut off by Shichibukai. You have characters like Kizaru in there, like I think Garp's even in there, Aokiji, just filling it with real characters that people give a shit about and lore that people give a shit about. And then you had Film Gold, and it's like, what were they doing with that? You know, like why? Like I'm sure Film Gold is a fun movie, but I just don't know what the draw would have been to get people into theaters, because it's like, this guy's name is Grand Tesoro and he runs a casino, and it's just like, it feels like it's going back to the old school One Piece movies things where it's like, who is this, who gives a shit, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, there's just no tie-in, right? And so I feel like Film Gold, from what I understand, didn't do that hot, because it's just like, why is anyone interested to go see that, you know? And so then the Stampede is fucking funny as fuck, because they did a hard 180 from Film Gold. They're like, okay, so people, turns out, are not interested when we just make up random bullshit characters and make the movie about that. So Stampede, we're just gonna shove everything in there that we possibly can. This is Douglas Bullet. He fought Roger, was on Roger's ship or something like that. He knows the way to fucking Laugh Tale. You know who else is in it? Fucking Sabo and Mihawk and Fujitora and Crocodile and Lucci and Hancock. And it's just like they pulled everything they could out of the bag and just threw it at the movie. And you know what? It worked. It gets people's asses in seats, right? Even I fucking watched Stampede on my computer. And then they followed that up, which is like, all right, so this is what people like. All right, next movie, let's just pull out the most fan favorite of fan favorite characters. Film Red. It's all about Shanks. The character that people fucking nut over, right? The most mysterious, hyped, badass type character that Oda's kind of got in his back pocket. Let's just make the whole movie about Shanks. It's a Shanks movie. It's just the way they figured out. I just don't know what the fuck they were doing with Film Gold, because it's like they understood the marketing, then they just forgot how it works for like one movie, and they put a lot of effort into that movie for no reason, and then they're like, oh wait, yeah, this is what works. Okay, and we'll just double down on that from every movie going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if next movie is something like it has Prime Roger and Prime Whitebeard in it, or something like that. Anyway, movies rant over. Let's catch up here real quick. Sorry, I think I missed something. Behanort, thanks a lot. Uta, in my opinion, is a good main villain for Film Red, overpowered in a good way, carries interesting ideas, and I like how her character is expressed through Strongs. Also, the final battle of Red is great. I have nothing to really say because I didn't really fucking watch the movie. I just think there's unfortunately just nothing that you can say here that would convince me that the concept of Uta isn't dumb. Carries interesting ideas. I don't know what those ideas are because I didn't really watch. I just watched the fights. Yeah, I just think her entire character concept and her existence is stupid. How her character is expressed through songs. I thought some of the songs were good. Didn't really pay attention to any of the meaning behind them, so I have no opinion on that. The final battle is great. The final battle is it's cool. I would like to see characters get individual battles, but like the big team battle with, you know, both Straw Hats and Red-Haired Pirates both individually doing things, that's cool too. Just my zero knowledge thoughts, basically, from someone who doesn't actually know. Donnie on stream says, not gonna lie, I didn't enjoy Stampede. Yeah, Stampede's definitely not for everyone. Because I opened up Stampede thinking I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't even know why I decided to watch it. I was very confident it was just a shitty movie. But it's one of those where it's just fun to watch. Yeah, it's just fun to watch. One Piece Film Blue, starring Buggy D. Clown. Yeah. JP says, I actually felt that Film Gold had the most substance of all the movies, minus Film Z. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's not what people are going to the One Piece movies for. Because if you want substance, then there's something even better. It's called the One Piece manga, right? So the movies, I feel like, ultimately, it's just got to be a lot of fan service to really get people to buy tickets for it, you know? Unless the movies are canon, but that's just never going to happen. yeah, it's just never gonna happen. Like, I think that only works for, you know, seasonal anime, right? Like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Chainsaw Man. They're the only ones that can really get away with that. Golden says Morj, thoughts on Zoro being off screen with Lucci. And Ricardo G is saying make a power scale tier list. These two ideas are related. I'm going to do another. So, fun fact, I will do another top 30 type thing after Egghead Island, because I think Egghead Island will give us a lot of data to go off of, you know? Can't do a top 30 right now because we need some more data. We need to see how Zoro versus Lucci goes. Obviously, Zoro won't lose to Lucci, but it is also not great for him that that fight has not yet wrapped up. It does not look great. I think... Okay, what was the consensus? Let me do the poll again. What was the consensus? Was Zoro using... Okay, let's see what the consensus was. Was Zoro using Advance Conquers Haki against Lucci? Last we saw. Yes, no. Okay. So let's get the consensus on this real quick. I don't remember if there was a consensus. I know people were debating what's King of Hell mode versus not King of Hell mode. I'm personally on the train that we shouldn't even use the phrase King of Hell mode. But that's its own separate discussion. Here's the thing to me. Oh, cool. The poll is split 50-50. How... All right. Oh, now it's kind of shifting. To me, all it is that if Zoro's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki against Lucci, and Lucci's able to block and everything like that and keep up, I just don't understand what the point of Advanced Conqueror's Haki is anymore. Because it seemed, when it was introduced, as though it's just a strictly better form of Haki that's fairly broken and just inherently, like, it seems like it's innately stronger than Advanced Armament. Because that was the whole thing. That was what they were talking about. Like, the scabbards were like Kaido's explaining to the scabbards, you cannot leave a scar on me like Odin did, because, like, that type of Haki just does not work, right? It's too shallow. Luffy saying my attacks weren't doing enough damage to you, they were too shallow. Like, it's a thing that's being reiterated throughout the fight. Then you get to the chapter 1010 where it's like, okay, Zoro is able to leave a scar. Why? Kaido's talking about Conqueror's Haki. Luffy is finally able to do real damage. Why? Thanks to Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right? It's a huge deal is made out of that, and then Oda shows, like, Big Mom using Advanced Conqueror's Haki. It's shown that this is what splits the sky. All of these things start to piece together. It's like, okay, this form of Haki is just better. Zoro versus King, right? Before they were just clashing blades, etc. Once Zoro starts using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, like, you can go back to that fight, like, King can't even really, like, keep his swords together against Zoro, right? Like, King has to fly away once Zoro starts flexing that more. It's just clear that Advanced Conqueror's Haki is just better than normal Haki. But now if we're at a point where it's like, okay, so Zoro's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Lucci, we can assume, is using normal armament Haki. Even if we give Lucci benefit of the doubt, we're like, okay, he can use both levels of armament Haki. It's like, what is the point of this other thing, Conqueror's Haki, Advanced Conqueror's Haki, if it just clashes evenly with somebody else using Advanced Armament? Like, it just doesn't make any sense why you would make this one thing. Like, you guys get what I'm saying? Like, why make such a big deal out of this one thing if it's basically just like, okay, it's stronger than armament, but not really? I just don't get why that would be. It just seems weird to me. So we gotta wait and see. I just don't get the point, basically. Like, does anyone get the point? What would the point be? What would be the purpose? Why not just have stronger armament Haki then? I just don't get it. Because, again, like, with Kaido, the whole situation was that it was stressed, was that it's like you cannot do damage to him with armament Haki. That was sort of the lesson that was being taught. That was what Luffy's Eureka moment was. It's like, okay, you literally can't do anything to this dude with just armament Haki. You need Conquerors, which seems to imply that Conquerors is strictly better than armament. And it can do things that armament can't. So with Zoro, it's like, if he's using Advanced Conquerors right now, but it's exactly the same as Lucci using Advanced Armament, what's the... There's no fucking point to having written in this ability into the series in the first place. So yeah, we just gotta see. Tom, thanks for the 5. I'm 40 chapters into Undead Unluck, and I like it, but you'd also notice the insane number of feat shots. Also, what was the moment it turned good for you? The moment it turned good for... Okay, feat shots, I haven't read it in long enough to really remember. I did not notice an insane number of feat shots personally in my reading, but I assume if you're saying it's there, it was probably there. The moment it turned good for me, like, genuinely really interesting, was... Without like, I'll just say the name of the arc, right? The climax of the spoil arc and everything that started from the climax of the spoil arc and then on. I think that was a big pivotal turning point in the series. I am actually checking out the anime bit by bit. Like, I've checked out an episode here or there. I think I'm probably like maybe 4 or 5 episodes in. I don't know. I watch it very intermittently. Like, I haven't really sat down to watch a few episodes. And like, it's doing an okay job. It wrecks some scenes kind of weird. So it seems like the conclusion is that Zoro's not using advanced conquerors. If he is, it just opens up this whole can of worms where it's like, okay, so his conqueror's haki is just pointless at a certain point. Some people are saying advanced conqueror's haki is passive. Oh, did I do the poll wrong? What did I say? I thought I said advanced conqueror's haki in the poll. I'm reading the comments. Demon says, but Zoro's advanced conqueror's haki is not the same level as a Yonko. Yeah, that's fine. It's just still better than anybody that's using armament is the point of advanced conqueror's haki. Right? Like, it's just better than armament. Like, we're not talking about Zoro versus a Yonko, we're talking about Zoro versus Lucci. Yeah, King got one shot from advanced conqueror's haki, Zoro. Yeah. Strahd Chakra says, no way Lucci greater than King. If Zoro's using advanced conqueror's haki right now, then Lucci is greater than King. Again, I think that people really scaled Luffy weirdly off of the Lucci weirdly off of the Luffy fight, because it's just bizarre. If you go back and read it, it's like, okay, Lucci held out against Luffy for 2 chapters, right? And he took all of these hits, and he like clashed with Luffy, and he did all of these things, and people are like, no, but he just got rolled by Luffy, so like he's weaker than Katakuri and King and stuff like that. It's like, but Katakuri would get like probably one-shotted by Luffy, and it's like, no, but Lucci like was fighting a Luffy who wasn't trying. And I'm like, okay, but then how are you able to scale Lucci at all, right? Because by all rights, the characters people put Lucci below, like Katakuri, King, stuff like that, it's like, it's based off of the Luffy fight. But nothing happened in the Luffy fight that, like, there's nothing to indicate that Katakuri or King would do any better than Lucci did against Luffy in the Luffy fight, right? Like, it's just arbitrarily saying, like, okay, this happened to Lucci, and it wouldn't happen to Katakuri or King. It's like, yes, it would. If you put Katakuri in that situation, in my opinion, Katakuri goes down a lot easier. Like, one punch or a couple punches of advanced armament haki Luffy should take down Katakuri. And it would not be that hard based on like how far Luffy has come from the Whole Cake Island fight. I just don't know what people base Lucci versus Luffy off of, because again, it's like pretty much anything that Lucci did in that fight was just considered like, okay, well, it doesn't count because Luffy's not trying. It's like, okay, but then you can't use that because we know Luffy's not trying, but then you can't hold that too much. You can't say that means that Lucci would then be below other characters who Luffy could also beat without trying. Does that make sense? It's like, so that means that nothing Lucci did can ever count as a feat in the Luffy fight. It's like, well, he clashed with him with armament, right? It's like, no, but Luffy wasn't trying. It's like, okay, but I don't think Katakuri today could clash with Luffy with argument. It's like, no, it just doesn't matter. Okay, Lucci took several armament haki hits from Luffy. It's like, no, it just doesn't count because Luffy could have hit harder if he wanted. It's like, that's true, but that, like, by this logic, we just can't, like, nothing Lucci did against Luffy can ever seem impressive because you're just going to write it off as, like, well, Luffy didn't go all out. Again, Luffy can beat all these other characters too, like most Yonko first mates, with basically we have no comparison, right? Like, we have no idea how little effort Luffy would have to use to take out Katakuri at this point, but it should be really fucking low based on what Kaido did to Luffy in Act 1, you know? Dr. Doom, thanks for the 5. Thoughts about a lot of people hating on Oda's overuse of Gear 5th. I think we can't call it overuse at this point. It just seems like this is what it's going to be. I don't think it's overuse. I think this is just how Oda likes to write Luffy fights. I imagine Oda would have wanted to write, been wanting to write Luffy fights like this for a long ass time. So I don't know about overuse. It's just the way it is now. I'm gonna do a video on it. I decided over the course of the stream. I'll do a video on it. It will come out after so not next Tuesday's video, but the next Tuesday's video. Because I understand what people dislike about Gear 5th, but I also think like a lot of the arguments I see about it are misplaced on both ends. And I think a lot of people are defining certain things like tension, when tension is needed, when it makes sense, strangely. But at the same time, I understand long-term concerns for this. Okay, I'll put it this way. The short version for me is that I think so far, to me, I don't think that there's been a point where Gear 5th has been something that ruins my enjoyment of the story or feels off with the tone, with the flow of the tone that the story is kind of demanding right then, right? I think that so far it's been all in moments that feel good with the way it's shown up, with the way that it's affected the tone. But I can imagine many other scenarios where that would not work. So it's more so, for me, it's not anything that's happened so far. My concern is when situations will come up down the line where it's different, right? Like, again, I'll save for the video because I don't want to get into that debate here. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm happy with Gear 5th this chapter. I think it's fitting this chapter. I feel like we were all kind of looking forward to the moment that Gear 5th Luffy appeared and Bonnie could see Nika for the first time. Hopefully Kuma can see and register that Nika is here for the first time. I think that these are things that are good, that we were all hoping for. I felt like, at the very least. The question is going to be when it's like, you know, certain other fights down the line or certain other moments where maybe we want to see a different side of Luffy. The same side of Luffy that we saw, like, you know, against Lucci, against Crocodile Round 3, against Katakuri, against Doflamingo. You know, the most iconic fights in One Piece, right? The most iconic Luffy moments, right? So, because there's two sides of Luffy is the thing. And, like, everyone's accurate in saying that, like, well, Gear 5th Luffy, that's just how Luffy's always been. It's true, but there's also another side to Luffy, right? And that's usually what dominates when it comes, like, that other side is what we generally get to see of him the entire time when it's the most important, most personal fights that are happening for him. So that's just something to discuss down the line. Again, I'll drop it in 2 more videos. It's not worth getting into the nitty-gritty and debate over here because I think you guys will understand more what I'm talking about when I can put it out in a structured format. But right now, I think it's a good use of Gear 5th. I'm happy to see it here. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. We've gotten like 4 panels of Zoro versus Lucci. It took Gear 5 Luffy 1.5 chapters to beat Lucci. Plus, it's only been like 5 minutes in universe. I think it's not the amount of time, like amount of page count. I think it's the fact that they're like both like huffing and puffing or whatever. Like, you know, like for Luffy, it seemed like he didn't break a sweat. For Zoro, you can't say he hasn't broken a sweat. Nervain V-Maker, thanks for the 5. Zoro went from using 3 swords, King of Hell, in 1093 to only 2 swords in 1094. I don't know, man. Like, debating number of swords for Zoro at this point, like, yeah, it matters kind of, but it's like... yeah, like, again, I think Zoro's stronger than Lucci. Yeah, I think Zoro's stronger than Lucci. So I do think he'll win if he's going all out. The question is just how close is he to all out at this point. The foodie dentist says Oda cares not about power scaling, he just writes compelling story. No, he does care. That's totally fine, but then you can't make such a huge deal. Like, the entire you only get one or another then. You can't write this whole section of the story which is about, like, Luffy spending 2 weeks training in Udon to get this special ability, Advanced Conqueror's Haki, where we break down the multiple levels of how this will defeat Kaido, and then you get into the finale of Onigashima, and it's like, okay, so the Scabbards have these 2 techniques of armament haki down, but it's not working on Kaido, but then Luffy's coming in with Advanced Conqueror's Haki, and now this is what works to defeat Kaido. You know, like, you can't write so much of it into the story and build so much of the plot and set the success of the protagonists and their ability to overcome the primary conflict of the arc around specifically power scaling, which is what all of that is, right? Like, either just don't go nitty gritty into details, just keep it vague, just keep it simple, just focus on the story or whatever. Like, do that, or get really, really deep into the power scaling and like really deep into the ability set and be very, very consistent with it. But you can't do both, where you spend so much time on that stuff and then build it up to be really important and like talk about it 50 times throughout the Onigashima battle. Like, make such a big deal. Like, look, Zoro's entire success, like Zoro's entire victory against King, right, was predicated on him mastering Conqueror's Haki in that moment and him coming to a realization, developing that ability, right? So the story itself, you can't just be like, separate the story from the power scaling. It's like, no, the fucking story itself, like Zoro's story moment there, his victory, him overcoming his primary obstacle in the story, was about fucking like mastering this ability that is built to be so important to his success right here, right? Which means that the ability is important to the story, right? For the story to make sense, for any of this to have any meaning. And then next arc, if you just forget that ability, it's like the entire Zoro versus King fight, the story of that fight, basically doesn't matter. Because the story of that fight was learning Advanced Conqueror's Haki because it makes Zoro a stronger swordsman and takes him to a new level. Did he achieve a new level or not? If the very next arc you forget whether that even matters and just have Zoro fucking around, unable to produce the same effect with what he learned last time, then it basically invalidates what, like, why do we even give a fuck about the King fight? If I feel no progress for the character in terms of their primary goal, which is becoming the world's strongest swordsman, which is a fucking power scaling storyline, by the way, the world's strongest swordsman. I can't even, I never understand when people are like, power scaling doesn't matter. Read every single one of Zoro's fights and tell me that power scaling doesn't matter. You think he's like, I need to learn to cut steel because it's good for the story. It's like, what the fuck? No, it's to become the world's strongest swordsman, dude. I need to learn to do ranged attacks in Skypiea because it's just good for the story. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I need to learn to make my blades black because it's just like storytelling. I don't know, man. They're tied together. They're tied together. Like, the simple way to put it is, like, if you don't care about power scaling at all, then go fucking read, like, some... go read, like, fucking War and Peace or something like that. Go read Catcher in the Rye. Like, why are you reading a fucking shonen series about pirates that fight other bad guys every single arc and gain new power-ups and are, like, trying to become the world's strongest this or the world's strongest that, and like have all these random superpower, like what the fuck? If you don't care about power, it pisses me off so much because it's just such stupid pretentiousness. Like, if you genuinely have those opinions, there are a million other books that you could be reading. Why are you reading this fucking kids action comic? It makes no sense. Oxford, thanks for the 5. Oda cares about power scaling specifically when it serves the plot. Ultimately, whichever character wins is based on what moves the story along. No. He cares about the power scaling clearly when it fits what characters are going through as well. Like, you think that Luffy and Katakuri's entire fight was just about Luffy, like just factually Luffy needed to learn observation haki? No, it was important for understanding characters, right? In general, right, like Luffy unlocking gears for the first time, that was an important character moment, not just because he's gaining new abilities to solve the plot, but because he learned that, like, the entire story arc for him in Water 7 was, I need to learn to get stronger because I need to be able to protect my Nakama, etc. in the future, right? This is important for their characters. Like, Zoro versus King, if it was just for the plot, then Zoro, like, Oda wouldn't have dedicated a full chapter going through Zoro, like, having Zoro go through flashbacks and stuff and having realizations about himself, reaffirming his dream. Like, these are all character-based things as well, right? It's important for... It can't just be conveniently important for the plot and you make a huge dramatic deal about it and, like, this is what the characters have to learn, master, put effort into, and this is just what their journey is, like, the success of their journey is predicated on, right? You can't do all that and then just be like, okay, well, I actually didn't think that through at all whatsoever and it was just there for convenience for a moment, right? You don't get both. It's just not, it doesn't, you either it's important or it's just bullshit. There's no in between, really, right? You can't just be like, it's so important for one thing, and now it's just bullshit for everything else, because that's what their journeys are about. Like, their journeys are about getting stronger and stronger to succeed in goals that they previously would not have succeeded in, right? All right. Let's okay. Different topic. Kizaru's Roger level when he tries. The foodie dentist says he buffs / nerds characters all the time so he can focus on certain characters instead of having them on screen all the time. I like look. There's times where you just need some level of leniency. It's just like something convenient needs to happen, right? It's like Law and Beppo, like Law needs to be able to escape from Blackbeard. Law can't just die to Blackbeard, right? So it's if it's something small where it's like, okay, Beppo manages to swim away from Blackbeard and Van Augur, which is fucking insane, faster than they can react. Again, fucking insane. Like, if there were any two Blackbeard pirates that would be the hardest to escape from, it would very literally be Blackbeard and Van Augur, because Van Augur is a sniper who can snipe from his from his pre-time skip introduction. He can snipe from islands so far away you can't even see the island in sight, right? So you can't really escape from Van Augur. And Blackbeard, his entire fucking ability is sucking characters in, right? He can create literal, like, he has the power of a black hole. You cannot just swim away from him, right, if he wants to. But, like, in those small moments when it's just like, okay, something convenient plot-wise needs to happen, it's like, yeah, that's, like, let it happen. Plot-wise, whatever needs to happen. Just, if it's something small, like, Law already lost the fight, we know that Beppo can't beat Van Augur or Blackbeard. That's not what's implied here. It's just a thing where it's like, okay, they were caught by surprise, and then they're swimming away. You kind of just let it slide. Like, small stuff like that sometimes just needs to happen for the plot, right? But, like, Zoro versus Lucci even, I would agree that it doesn't seem egregious at this moment in time. Sometimes you just need to, like, have some character, like, you just need to take Lucci out of the equation for a moment, maybe take Zoro out of the equation for a moment, so just have them off on their own for a little bit, right? Like, as somebody else said, in real time, it hasn't been that long, probably. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if this continues to be a problem, like if we're watching Zoro versus Lucci, like Zoro struggle, panting, whatever with Lucci for like the next 3-4 chapters or something like that, then we get two conclusions, right? One is either Lucci must fucking have advanced Conqueror's Haki, or two, Conqueror's Haki doesn't actually matter unless it randomly conveniently matters, right? And it's just bizarre because it was made to be such a big deal. It would make no sense if it's suddenly not such a big deal, because it's like, in that case, why should we ever care about anything, right? We might get to an arc where like a huge deal is made out of Zoro being able to create a black blade or something like that. And the next arc, like it's like, oh, now you've got an invincible blade that will never break. And it's like, oh, thanks, I went through a lot of character training to do that. And then the following arc, what if Zoro's blade just breaks? And it's like, wait, what the fuck? Didn't we just go through all this for him to like learn how to have a black blade? And like that's a big deal that the black blade can't break. And it's like, yeah, but for plot reasons it just had to break. You get what I'm saying? It's just these things, you can't make a huge deal out of these sort of developments, this growth, this progress in their journey to becoming the strongest, to becoming the top of the ladder, whatever you want to say, and then just kind of throw that away whenever it's convenient to like have some temporary tension or something like that. Because it's just like, again, the question then becomes, why should we ever care about any of this progress, you know? Malik, thanks for the 5. What if Zoro and Lucci are also fighting the Blackbeard pirates? We still don't know where they are either. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be cool. There's a third party. Julianne Criswell says, One Piece is basically the best D&D adventure. Monster Trio maxed strength and dex. Weakling Trio maxed out intelligence, wisdom, charisma, and everyone can have bad rolls. Well, I don't know if everyone can have... I don't think it's ever been implied that, like, oh, Zoro's just had a bad roll or something. Like, today I can't cut steel. I just had a bad roll. I don't think that's ever been a thing, really. But, yeah, I get what you're saying, that, like, everyone in the Strahd crew has different strengths. Why are people talking about Kid? Golden says, what are your thoughts on Vegapunk being kind of inconsistent with his intelligence? Well, I mean, I don't think Vegapunk's inconsistent with his intelligence because it's pretty clear that his intelligence is in the fields of STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, biology, things like that, right? Like technical skill, like technical intelligence, right? And he's superhuman in that. I don't think it's ever been suggested that Vegapunk's like a brilliant mastermind or something like that. Like, I think he's, in terms of just practical intelligence, I suppose, he's made mistakes throughout this arc. He's made bad assumptions. He's overlooked things. He's underestimated even himself, like York, etc. So I don't think Vegapunk it'd be one thing if it's like Vegapunk can't do a math equation or something, then we'd be like, this doesn't seem consistent with his intelligence as shown to us so far. But he's only intelligent. Obviously, he's intelligent in all of the things that are generally considered to be the most important or most impressive to be intelligent in, which is creating things, science, etc. Right? The hard skills, right? The hard applications of intelligence. But I think beyond that, he's portrayed as, I suppose, just a normal character in terms of the mistakes he can make, just in terms of, just thinking ahead, underestimating what can or can't happen, things like that. Breezy2X says, you missed my super chat, I think. Let me catch it, I'm sorry. Tam Nugent says he's smart dumb, not smart smart. I think that's fairly common in like a lot of, I'm trying to think, like it's fairly common with a lot of character, like there's generally two types of hyper intelligent characters that you often see in fiction, which is and Breezy2X, I'll catch you in a second. Like the sort of mastermind, super smart chess master types, right? And then the extreme hard science type, like the invent anything, create anything, science anything, whatever, right? Like I suppose the Einsteins versus the I don't know, whatever the chess master types, right? The mix of both is not super common. Sometimes you have stuff like that, like Batman, right? Like Batman's a super smart strategy guy, right? Super smart strategy guy. Also the world's smartest detective, but then also when it needs to be, he's written to be an amazing inventor for the Justice League and really good with technology too, and like just creating stuff. I personally don't like when Batman's written like that, because it's this is like a minor tangent, but like I think when Batman's written with the Justice League, there's almost a need to overcompensate because Batman is genuinely so much less useful on average than the rest of them, right? So kind of turning up his intelligence in all facets up to 11 is kind of what I think happens, and he becomes very, very smart with technology as well, which I don't think, like, if he was that smart like that on the norm, then Gotham City would be solved like that, basically, which is not. But then his intelligence has to be turned down when he's dealing with, like, random gangs in his city and everything. So, but that's an example. Lex Luthor, also another example. Lex is like a brilliant strategist type character. Always has these big schemes and plans, but then he's also very, very good with like scientific technology and everything like that, right? But generally, I think most characters tend to fall into, like super smart characters tend to fall into one or the other category, because it's kind of like, well, if they have both, then that's like too much, I guess you could say Rick from Rick and Morty. You can think of lots of characters, to be fair, that are a mix of both, right? But generally one will be skewed to one or the other, right? So Vegapunk is very clearly written as the crazy mad scientist type of intelligent. Yokai Gota says Light Yagami is a mix of both. No, see, Light is Light is not superhuman in terms of his scientific capabilities, right? Like, he's obviously a really good student and academic, but Light and L are the perfect examples of the more strategic thinkers, right? The more strategic, more chess master type super brainiacs, right? Dexter from Dexter's Lab is like the flip side, where it's like he can be a total dumbass in normal shit, but he's a genius when it comes to creating things. Let me catch Breezy's comment. Breezy, thanks for the 5. Just got here. Do you think Luffy's gonna beat both Kizaru and Saturn? Also, do you know when the Pirate King podcast is coming out? So I'm gonna record it this weekend. Today, well, you can still probably get in your submissions. Still like the form or not this. The post is still up, etc. to get your submissions in. If you would like to get your submissions, it'll probably still be up tomorrow. I'm gonna record it over the weekend, and it should be up Monday. So watch out for it then. So I know a little bit. I wait till the end of the month, collect all stuff then, and then usually the default like after the weekend at the end of the month is when it comes out. So watch out for it then. Yeah. Ultimate Simon says Einstein versus Eisen. I think some Bleach characters are kind of a mix. I think Bleach actually has a lot of these mixed strategy smart and scientifically smart, because Eisen is also really really competent at creative sciences, right? Urahara obviously, but then Urahara is also very strategic, and then even Mayuri. But I think Mayuri leans more towards the super smart scientifically side, but he's still very strategic, I think, when it comes to taking on individual opponents. Loud Waffle says, damn, Batman Shade, didn't expect that this stream, lol. It's not Batman Shade. Like, Batman's probably my favorite superhero, I guess. I think I just... It just gets a little too ridiculous how he's written sometimes. That makes it hard for me to still claim him as my favorite, I guess. Because I do feel like there's like a sort of because he's the most, like, he's just the weakest and the most vulnerable and can do the least. So it feels like lots of situations, writers, like when he's around other superheroes, they like really play up like, oh, everyone's just so, like, all these other superpowered characters that can just kill him like that. Like, he just, like, is overly aggressive, overly dickish to them. They just like take, it just feels a little forced how intimidating and aggressive and dickish he is towards his friends sometimes, even like other superheroes and stuff. And it's like he always has to be exactly right in his plan or whatever. Like they're all dummies, they don't know what the fuck's going on, but Batman knows exactly what's what. I don't know. I think I prefer Batman for sure in his own home environment. Like Batman in Gotham with Gotham rogues and generally more flawed and actually, just generally more flawed. I think I prefer Batman in that environment. Udit Patel says Batman got shot by Harley Quinn. He ain't that guy anymore. I thought like I'm not even an Arkham game player, but I thought everyone was like, oh, you know what? We'll just decide that's not canon. Ultimate Simon says Batman with prep time beats all of them. Am I right? See, when I was younger, when I was like a kid, like in middle school, I was like, yeah. Like I would go on forums, like comic book something that, like there's forums for like debating comic book stuff, and I would be like, I didn't even read that many comics. I just like Batman from like TV shows and movies and stuff. And I'd be like, yeah, like Batman, like with prep time and stuff, he can beat everybody. And like it's like there's some degree of like Batman with enough prep time. Like if you give him infinite prep time, yeah, you could probably come up with a plan to take out these whoever. I personally think that like anyone with infinite prep time has a good shot at taking out like because if you get infinite, like if you have infinite time, at a certain point you will come up with literally every conceivable idea in the world, right? That's just what infinite time means, right? Like if not now, 200 million years from now, right? I know that's not what people mean with like infinite prep time, but it's like if there's an idea that Batman would have if you gave him 10 years, if you gave me like 8 billion years of just sitting around doing nothing, I would probably come up with that too, just through sheer try writing shit on a chalkboard and coming up with it, right? Like infinite prep time means like that's a fuck ton of time, but like I used to be on that trade, like Batman beats anyone with prep time. And now it's just a stupid discussion to have. Like, yeah, I guess you could argue that. You could also argue other shit. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just a stupid discussion to have. No, it wasn't versus battles. What was it? Comic Vine. I think it was Comic Vine. Yeah, I think Comic Vine is what I used to read a lot. Breezy2X says, I don't care how much time you got, you're not beating Superman. Well, if like kryptonite and stuff exists in the world, like we're assuming that, you know. JWP, thanks for the 5. Do you read comics? Also, Comics Explained on YouTube is awesome. He has like 9-hour vids explaining an entire story from the comics. It's like an audiobook. I think, so there is a comics guy that, like my friend, like a guy that basically narrates or like tells the general story of what happens in a comic, like a full comic arc or comic series. And my friend got really into it, and he told me to watch some. So for the sake of him, I tried. I think it might be the same guy. Comics. It's some guy that I watched a bunch of videos that broke down like the whole Kingdom Come storyline. Outside of that, and then I fell off of it, but it was definitely interesting and fun. Outside of that, so when I was younger, I would, like, if I went to Barnes & Nobles or a bookstore or whatever, I would go straight to the comics section and just pick those up and read. Because that's one of the fun... So, like, everybody says this about manga, which is true, which is that with manga and anime, like, you get, like, a full continuous story. It's really, really, it's one continuous vision. You can, like, you pick up from the start. You can read it all the way through. I get that. I kind of forgot that with the fun of comics, because I really, like, you actually just made me remember. The fun of comics is that you can just walk into a bookstore and you can pick up any issue. Like, I can just pick up what looks cool, like a Batman comic that looks cool because it has a cool title, cool cover, cool art, and just start reading it just there from start. And you'll obviously be missing some context, right? Some of them are more self-contained than others, but you can read anything and it'll be fun. Like, you'll pick up what the story is for this given storyline, like, decently, as long as it's not, like, part of some big crisis or something like that, right? So that's one of the big fun things about comics. So I did read lots of, like, random Batman comics, some random Superman comics, Justice League stuff. I was more so drawn towards stuff that either was, like Batman. Like, I'm not a huge comics person, but I was drawn to stuff that he was either Batman, like random Batman comics that I would just pull off the shelves. If it was like crossover stuff, I would read things that were like Crisis, right? Like Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis even, things like that. I like the Superman Batman crossover stuff. Like, there was a whole comic run. I forget by who, but it was like Superman Batman. Like, they even made animated movies off of these down the line. But yeah, it would just be like Superman, Batman, like fighting like Lex Luthor when an asteroid is gonna hit, like a kryptonite asteroid or something is gonna hit Earth, like stuff like that. So I wasn't huge into comics, but it was like my fun thing to read if I was at a bookstore and just killing time at the bookstore, basically. And I lived close to a bookstore. I lived fairly close to a Barnes & Noble. So if I felt like going there, that's probably what I'm gonna go pick up and read. Anyway. Alright, guys. I think I'm going to call it here. JWP says, Batman had a contingency to kill every member of the Justice League. Yeah, that's true. But it's also just like, that doesn't mean that if he had to fight them individually, like, if he would pull it off. You know, like, some of them were very contrived, too. Like, one of them was the most random thing ever. It was like, put Wonder Woman in, like, a simulation where she... she is fighting someone that she, like, can never beat, and she'll eventually just tire herself out because Wonder Woman never gives up. It's like, that's such a weirdly... It's such a contrived solution, because it's just like, I guess that's a weakness of hers, but it's like, if you could put her in a simulation, you could probably do a lot of other... like, I think once you've got her in the simulation, you pretty much won. It's like, isn't the difficult part getting her in the simulation first, too? I forget how they did it. Maybe it was gas or a toxin or something like that. It's been a bit. Or maybe that was from the movie version of it that they made. Because they did a movie version of that. I don't know. Some of the stuff was, like, really weirdly specific. I was like, this was the... I don't know. But yeah. Anyway. I'm going to call it here. Stormfox, thanks for the 5. So many people making fun of Sanji and complaining about Gear 5th on Twitter. It started ruining my mood. Interestingly, no one, congrats to this stream. No one brought up Sanji at all this stream. At least not in like there was no supers or anything like that. Some people talked about Gear 5th, but no one talked about Sanji. Like, he was not a topic of discussion here. No one was like, this is bullshit that this happened to Sanji or whatever. Yeah, so big shouts to everybody here. Pat yourselves on the back. No Sanji discussion. We did randomly get into Shanks versus Mihawk, but you know, sometimes shit just happens. But no Sanji discussion. That's pretty good. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I will talk to you all later.